Namaste everyone. Welcome back to my channel. Today is day 11 of the 90-day hard challenge for UPSC. Let's get started. The topic for today is Culture Personality School. Just as I mentioned in the video for symbolic and interpretative theories, the later theories, including the current one of Culture Personality School, are very important as per the trends of questions coming in latest years. So let's study this in detail. As for the background, the culture personality school evolved in response to the diffusionist, evolutionist, and functionalist schools to explain the culture. Instead of the above approaches, anthropologists of this school said that the culture of a society and personality of an individual are not independent but rather interact and affect each other. Thus, to study the interaction between culture and personality, we have three major schools of thought. One, personality influences culture. Second, culture influences personality. And the third, both personality and culture influence each other. For this theory in general, anthropologists use several methods like fieldwork and psychoanalysis, along with several new techniques that were created by different anthropologists like Ruth Benedict and Margaret Mead. Do read about them. Further, it created an interdisciplinary approach to study the society, culture, and personality, which is the main accomplishment of this theory. Along with this, it also helped in various other studies like national character study, the configuration approach of culture, and other theories like basic and model personality. We'll read about them when we study the contribution of individual anthropologists. However, several anthropologists also criticize this theory to narrow the role of cultural institutions as merely involved in shaping of personality. However, as I said, instead of the general points of this theory, it is very important to study the contribution of individual anthropologists, which we'll study now. As I mentioned earlier, culture personality school में three main schools of thought हैं. The first one, personality influences culture. Second, culture influences personality. And the third, both personality and culture influence each other. The main anthropologists of this school are Ruth Benedict, Margaret Mead, Ralph Linton, Abraham Gardiner, and Cora Dubois. Apart from Abraham Gardiner, almost all the other anthropologists were students of Franz Boas and thus belonged to the American school. Now let us study their contributions one by one. The first one is Ruth Benedict. She gave her theory that personality influences culture in her book Patterns of Culture. She mentioned about a special genius of culture, which means that there is a common tendency in all people belonging to a particular culture. And these tendencies shapes the culture of those individuals. Thus, personality influences culture. Along with this, do study about her contribution towards culture traits, complex, and the configuration of culture. Along with this, she also told about two different personality types, Apollonian and Dionysian. Do read about her fieldwork of Pueblo Zoni Society of New Mexico and the Quakiutl of North America in this regard. Finally, Ruth Benedict also gave important contributions to the national character study in form of her book Chrysanthemum and the Sword, wherein she studied the Japanese society. Next we have is Margaret Mead. During her fieldwork, she studied three societies in New Guinea in nearby geography, but she saw differences in their cultures. These differences in culture also resulted in differences in the personality of people in these societies, and thus she gave her theory that culture influences personality. The classic fieldwork by Margaret Mead in this regard is that of the Samoan society. In her book Coming of Age in Samoa, she studied the rebellious nature of American adolescents vis a vis the Samoan adolescents. This is a classic case study which you must mention in your answer in case the Culture Personality School and Margaret Mead are asked, without which you stand to lose a lot of marks. Finally, Mead also created a lot of different methods to study the culture, including photographic technique as well as studying culture from a distance approach. Next up, we have Abraham Gardiner, who was actually a student of Sigmund Freud. Being associated with psychological anthropology, he gave the concept of a basic personality. According to him, there are certain common characteristics of personality found in all the members of a society. All the members is very important here. Do keep that in mind. Along with this, he gave the psychodynamical approach to explain the cultural change. According to him, there are two types of institutions, primary and secondary. The primary institutions are those which create a certain need in an individual. These needs affect the personality of an individual, and thus we can say that primary institutions affect the basic personality. The needs created in basic personality by the primary institutions are satisfied by secondary institutions, which also again modifies the basic personality. Do create a basic flowchart diagram of this and add it in your answer to get more marks. Next up, we have Ralph Linton. He was greatly impressed by Gardner's work on basic personality and thus elaborated that further. In the study of culture, he gave various concepts like ideal culture, real culture, culture construct, culture universe, culture specialities, and cultural alternatives. You will read a lot of them while studying culture in 2.1. According to Linton, there are two types of culture, overt and covert. Overt is which can be seen and is public, whereas covert is that which is hidden or unaware by individuals. जैसा कि आप समझ ही गए होंगे, overt culture हमें दिखता है, thus it can be manipulated as well, whereas covert culture is hidden from plain sight, and thus it is a better representative of the personality of an individual. However, covert culture को interpret करना directly बहुत मुश्किल है, and hence we use the overt culture to interpret the covert culture. In this regard, Linton also gave the concept of a cultural core. Further, improving upon Gardner's work, Linton gave the concept of a basic culture. With regard to this, he said that all individuals belonging to a similar socialization process develop common customs and beliefs. These common customs and beliefs creates common patterns of behavior in all of the individuals, and this common pattern of behavior is what Linton called as basic culture. Finally, we have Cora Dubois, and she is most remembered for her contributions towards model personality. She created this concept after her fieldwork of Alor Society of Indonesia. While studying, she collected several ethnographic data, biographies, children's drawings, as well as life histories. Later, she divided these data and gave it to different anthropologists without telling them about the other data which they didn't get. Finally, she asked all of them to analyze this and create a personality type for the people of Alor. Then she got all these different results from different anthropologists, combined them, and plotted their average in a psychogram. This technique is also called as projective technique. जब कोरा ड्यूबुआ ने इन पर्सनालिटी टाइप्स को साइकोग्राम में प्लॉट कर कर देखा, she said that the most frequently occurring type of personality is called as model personality. Do keep in mind, यहाँ पे हम most frequently occurring personality की बात कर रहे हैं. Thus, it need not be common to all the people, but it should only be most frequently occurring. She also explained her concept of model personality using the primary and secondary institutions as first given by Abraham Gardner. Thus, for each of these anthropologists, do prepare a few books and the major theories given by each of them. That should be sufficient for a 10 or a 15 marker. That's all for the Culture Personality School and this video. See you all soon. Jai Hind.